he's getting crazier and crazier. And, I've seen things driving him nuts. You can see just trying to tell people to make it go away. He's calling people. He's scared here. I think we can draw that conclusion pretty conclusively.
James, this week, Donald Trump posted a video of a bikini-clad young girl holding a snake. He accused Barack Obama of treason. He demanded the Washington Commanders change their names or else, whatever that is. Now, there's a couple things. I think he's slipping cognitively, as 79-year-old men are wont to do. We are experts. We're not president. Two reasons, although also come to mind. He wants to detract attention from this big, beautiful tax and Medicaid cut bill, about which Republicans are going to get an earful over the congressional recess. And he wants to detract attention from his much closer than admitted ties to the late Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced predator. More stories of them together have come out, and Epstein was a guest at Trump's 1993 wedding. I don't know if any criminal acts were committed. I don't have any idea what's in those files, but it's clear Trump is lying about their association. There is some sort of a cover-up going on. But in my full conspiracy attire, I smell a deal. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, says he plans to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's confidant and co-conspirator, who is in prison. Now, Blanche is Trump's former attorney, a total loyalist. His only qualifications for his top Justice Department job. Maxwell was convicted of a federal crime, which means she could be pardoned by Donald Trump. If the caged bird sings the right tune, she could fly free. James, I apologize for my cynicism, but I believe it.
Well, also, don't forget that Alan Dershowitz is going to quarterback this. If I had to guess, there's remuneration involved. That's my guess. In reference to Trump, the problem is he's so crazy, it's really hard to quantify. Is he crazier now than before? But I'm skeptical, but I'm starting to lean more and more yes. Actually, Charlemagne the God, who's a very popular black podcast, broadcast, I don't know exactly what he has, but he did a good job of chronicling his kind of lapses. And I think it's legitimate to ask journalists who were slow on the uptake about Biden's cognitive decline. Of course, everybody is appropriately piling on now, and they should, because it was something to see. But I think we need to see this covered more and more. His sort of cognitive issues, the crazy, is he putting out more crazy crap now than normal? I suspect that it is, but I don't know how. I don't know how to measure it. Maybe Nate Silver, Harry Eaton or somebody can do that. I have no idea.
Well, I think some kind of trained neurologist who will tell you. I've talked to some that his bravado, his bluster, his bluffing, his noisiness, his loudness, that may well camouflage some of the things that we saw in Biden. That doesn't suggest that you're sharp or you're cognitively as strong as you ever were. It just means you can engage in a lot of bluster and bravado. So when you tell people maybe he's slipping, they'll say, "Oh no, did you watch him the other night? He was all fired, just all fired up." Well, that doesn't tell you anything, James.
Al, first of all, neurologists are very reluctant to comment on the Goldwater rule. They tell you. Yeah. But it's hard to get him to go public. And it's because he's so goddamn crazy. You don't know if it's a neurological deterioration, because he says and does so many crazy things. But it does appear to me that he's getting crazier and crazier. And, I've seen things driving him nuts. You can see just trying to tell people to make it go away.
Yeah.
Calling people, he's scared here. I think we can draw that conclusion pretty conclusively.
No question, and your point's well taken on a neurologist or another doctor. But I think if you could find somebody who's an expert, maybe retired, I don't know what, and just look at speech patterns of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Stat did that some few years ago, and that can be very telling because there's something happening. But you're right; he's so crazy. Who knows?
And
Um,
and but usually when you start to deteriorate, it's not linear. It can go pretty quickly, and
yeah.
I don't know. But he's the stuff they're saying is just like insane. And he wanted to play golf with Obama, and now why would you? I mean, it's all, if you just do the history of it, it's all just loony in the tune.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to turn to a couple other topics, James. Michael Ludig, the distinguished conservative former federal judge who's anti Trump for a simple reason. Judge Ludig believes in the rule of law. Trump doesn't. In a new Substack post, he writes, "Never has the country's future depended more on a free press. But he worries that some of those upon whom this right has been conferred are surrendering it to a president who believes the press and the First Amendment are there only for one purpose, to serve him." Judge Ludig is talking about you, Disney and ABC, and you, CBS and Skydance, and you, Jeff Bezos, all of whom capitulated to Trump's indefensible demands to the detriment of their viewers, readers, and citizens. So, but at the same time, I want to applaud the Wall Street Journal for standing up to Trump's latest outrage, a $10 billion suit for a story the paper published on Trump and Epstein. Of two things I am willing to take to the bank. This story is basically accurate. They would have checked that 17 times over. And there's no grounds for a defamation suit. This is about the First Amendment. Secondly, Trump doesn't want to go into any discovery. This is just another bluff, another taco, as they call it on Wall Street, his latest. He'll drop this suit at some time.
Well, I think what's going to happen is the same thing happened with the Woodward suit. I think a judge is going to drop it for him. But you single out the press, and they're very deserving of it in many ways. And of course, most of this is a function of corporate ownership. In the case of Disney, in the case of CBS, all across the board. You're right. Uh, the Wall Street Journal has sort of stood up. Surprisingly, we were never fans of Murdoch, and we have traditionally been big fans of CBS. But I will say this: I think the Colbert thing was just losing money. I think it was unfortunate timing, but I think that late night TV is just not a very profitable model anymore. But I'm going to be suspicious. But it's not just big media companies, man. It's big academia, prestigious academia caving. It's
Law firms.
law firms, it's companies, it's all kinds of stuff. I mean, the U.S. Olympic Committee, the Coca-Cola Company. All right, look at all of the, I would call it capitulation, maybe business decisions, but this is a time of extreme cowardness all across the United States. It just is. And I just think that what these people are doing is going to historically harm their reputations, going to harm their place in history. And I don't know if they realize that everybody is into short term survival. In one sense, I can't blame them. In another sense, the more that he succeeds, the more encouraged he is to go on.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't he? He's you know he's going after the Washington football team, the Commanders. I mean, you would have thought all that was behind you, and but it's not. But it's not that he's crazy, but it's the people, it's the accomplices that go along with this for short term gain. They're going to experience long term pain. I promise you, there's going to be a reckoning. I'm 100% convinced of that.
There's a very good piece that's just coming out in the Times about from the former U.S. ambassador to Hungary. who said the pattern over there wasn't just that Orban was bad and an autocrat, it was the business leaders, the academics, even some of the media. They just, they said, well, we can make nice with him. We can, cut a deal. We can capitulate. And guess what? Every time they did it, it got more authoritarian and more authoritarian. And he is basically looking at what's happening here and says it's deja vu. And I do fault them. I think the bottom line matters, but I think it's more about staying rich rather than,
You
sacrificing
know,
people.
if you think back, people would stand up for the country. They would risk things. People would risk reputations during the Red Scare, during the Vietnam War. Okay, during the Civil Rights Movement, they were courageous people. There were a lot of go along to get along people, but admittedly, but some people were enormously courageous. I think history has regarded them well. Go civil rights, gay rights, all kinds of things. And boy, courage in corporate America is really not very. It's not very impressive. I got to say that. Nor is it in across the board. It's not a. This is just a dangerous time, man. The more I think about it, the worse it is. The more inadequate it makes me feel. And he's every time you do this, not just that he did it and he made you cave. It's empowering him and encouraging him to do even more.
Well, and it's also the effect it has on others. There are, I know, law firms, there are universities, there are even some media places that are kind of pulling their punches. They don't want to be a target next time. He has injected an element of fear. And, that's really bad for a democratic society. It really
It's
is.
horrible.
And,
Look, I don't. We cannot minimize what's going on today everywhere and what this is like. And of course, when you read our friend Ann Applebaum, a guy like Tim Snyder, I mean, these are people that are experts on totalitarian, authoritative states, and they're just giving you the outline, and he's just following it. But I tell you, when we did our survey of the most odious Trump people, I think we missed the number one guy. I think when the
oh,
history is written, Russell Voigt. I think when the history of this is written, I think Russell Voigt will be shown to have the most insidious influence of anybody. And I think all of these things that you're seeing, destruction of State Department, any kind of environmental info, any of this, I think originates with him. I really do. I mean, I think we had a good survey, and I think people answered it, and it was good. But I think when the history of this is written, and it will be, I think he's going to be character number one.
boy, he's got tough competition with Stephen Miller, but he certainly is up there. I think he finished eighth in our
Stephen Miller
poll,
does
and that
headline
certainly was underestimating him.
odious things. There's no doubt about that. And the stuff he's done with these immigrants is well, it's just sinful. But Voigt is going about this methodically. He knew what he was doing. He came in knowing exactly what he was going to do. And then you look at they're just going through the State Department, just firing people left and right with not any thought of anything. And I think we got distracted by Elon Musk. Doge was such a good story. Headsmith was such a good story. Pam Bondi such a good story. Obviously Stephen Miller. But I think at the end of the day, the 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 real focal point, the real PowerPoint here, the guy that's caused the most destruction is Russell Voigt.
And he's able to do it because of the Republican quislings in the House and Senate who are going along with everything.
And then they go and they say it's bad, but they didn't have anything. The Amy
Yeah.
Klobuchar piece about how it actually rewards fraud was like one of my hats off to her. That was a really well done piece. And you read it and you said, this can't be true, but it is.
Well, Josh Hawley cast, key vote for cutting Medicaid, and before the ink is dried on Trump signing that, he proposes to restore all those cuts. Where were you when we needed you, Josh? You know where you were? It's the same thing you did on January 6th. You were ducking. You were evading. You were a coward.
And that guy, he has always grew up in, as I recall, I just love to compare him and Bill Bradley because I think Bill Bradley is one of the most noble Americans in the whole entire post World War II era. They both grew up in Missouri. They were both sons of, I think, affluent bankers. All right. And look at the career of, and they both went to elite schools. They both have all world intellects. And look at the Bill Bradley's career, which is, in my view, one of the most distinguished careers that you could imagine, one of the best, or most authentic, most humane, most curious people I know. And you just compare that to Josh Hawley, and I think that's a best way to understand the America we had and the America that we've become.
Yeah. And as we found out at the 92nd Street Y last year, Bill Bradley continues to excel, continues
Absolutely.
to impress,
In
continues to contribute.
every way that a human being
Right.
can, being an
Right.
impactful senator, being a power world athlete and scholar and being a vision on the whole issue of, civil rights and to even the show that he does today, which I find very good, where he goes out and talks to sort of extraordinary Americans that you never heard
Right.
of. But I just the comparison to him and Josh Hawley is to me one of the instructive ways to look at the country. If I had the know-how and the ability, I'd do a book on this. I think it's such a startling contrast.
Well, the show me state has shown it's a great contrast. James, I got one final note, and this is difficult for me, James. For all of your charm and talent, there is one Democrat who apparently does not like you. In a profanity-laden tirade on podcast, Hunter Biden went after you, George Clooney, and any others who thwarted his father's reelection bid. I admit I'm a little hurt I wasn't important enough to make his F-bomb tirades, as I also was against Biden running. But I take great pride that my podcast partner made that list. What do you think, James?
Al, first of all, the Carvilles are kind of an Irish clan. And of course, that whole thing is like part of Biden's family. And Hunter has had, to say the least. I didn't take much offense at it. And the truth of the matter is, I never liked it. I did what I did because I thought I had to. I didn't think I had any other choice. Unlike, just kicking the shit out of Ken Starr, which I enjoyed every day. I couldn't wait to get out of bed to do it. And I had to end up like being anti-Joe Biden. And boy, there are no people who were more disliked ethically, morally, or anything else than Ken Starr and Joe Biden. But I kind of, if it was my dad, I can't tell you I would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
agree.
the pressure on him and is got to be enormous. So I'm not. I don't take. I understand where you're coming from.
Well, I do too. He would better serve himself and his father, though, just to
It would have
stay in
been
the
better,
background. But it is
you
what
know,
it is.
it's
Yeah.
emotional. There's a lot tied into it, but it's a lot of the culture of there is that no one respects us, no one, which is not true. Okay, if you would have gotten out of the race in September of 2023,
Most respected figure in the world.
Yeah, you'd be the most popular person in the world. You'd be like Grant. You'd be going to visit Bismarck or something.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No. Anyway, sorry, Hunter. I hope you get better.
I ain't mad at you, son.